Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Monday, November 19th, 2018.
Commissioner Garcia, James, and Jacinto are present. President James, we do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introduction, starting with Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Bureau of Contract Administration, Brett McReynolds.
Bureau of Engineering, Bob Nielsen.
Bureau of Sanitation, Mike Mullen.
Good morning, Sandy Turin, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Art Martinez, Street Services.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. For the record, Commissioner Davis has joined us, and he is part of the quorum. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment. We also do not have any commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We did not receive any speaker cards on any of the items for today's agenda as well.
Okay. Perhaps Commissioner Davis was just embarrassed from his football team's performance over the weekend. I don't know. He might have been a little late. Well, welcome, Commissioner Davis. So, first of all, let me start out this morning with an apology to our partners at Metro who are here today for an update, an oral report update that for some reason we had a miscommunication from our office to yours. We were unable to it's not on the agenda for today, and we did not get that communication to you. Our counsel informs us, and we're not blaming him, of course, I'm blaming us. We can't go forward with it today because it's not on our agenda, and it wouldn't be proper for us to do so. So we're very sorry about that. Maybe when you come back for your next oral report, we'll have donuts or something like that as a gesture of goodwill.
Mr. President, Fernando
Yes.
Campos, Executive Officer. In communications with the Bureau of Engineering, we had agreed to Monday, November 26th as the new date. I do apologize. It was an oversight on our part, but also a miscommunication between us and the Bureau of Engineering to get to the Metro folks as well. So my apologies from my staff as well.
Okay. Thank you. So we can't go forward with it today. We'll see. Is it on next Monday's agenda?
Monday the 26th.
Okay,
yes.
Next Monday. We're really sorry that you all made the trip over here and then have to come back next Monday. And we appreciate our partnership and the work that you do with us. And we'll see you all next week and have a great Thanksgiving. And again, our apologies. Let's take care of some of our administrative items that we have on the agenda this morning. We have a stop payment notice for Sierra Landscape Development Incorporated, transmitting a stop payment notice in the amount of $29,025 for labor in connection with the Harding Street Bridge Rock Slope Protection Project. The primary contractor is John S. Meek Company. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 10 forthwith? By Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 11, stop payment notice. Looks like Crisp Company is transmitting a stop payment notice in the amount of $26,001.40 for furnishing highway improvement product installations in connection with the Riverside Drive near Zoo Drive Bridge over Los Angeles River project. The primary contract for the project is Ortiz Enterprises Incorporated. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 11 forthwith? By Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 12 is a stop payment notice for Robertson's. Robertson's is transmitting a stop payment notice in the amount of $5,858.25 for furnishing ready-mix concrete, so it's not the department store, rock and/or sand materials in connection with the emergency sewer and storm drain repair 6918 Cedros Avenue project. The primary contractor is Valverde Construction. Is there a second to my motion that we receive number 12 forthwith? By Commissioners Jacinto and Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 13, another stop payment notice from Robertson's for furnishing ready-mix concrete, rock, and/or sand materials in connection with the emergency sewer and storm drain repair at 3801 West 60th Street project. The primary contractor, again, Valverde Construction. Is there a second to my motion that we receive number 13 forthwith? By Commissioner Jacinto. Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 2, actually number 4, We have contract acceptance for sidewalk repair program, package 22, package 11, and package 13. Mr. McReynolds is here on agenda item number 3. It's to accept the construction order. On 4 and 5, it's to accept the contract. Is Mr. McReynolds here? Oh, there you are.
Good morning, President
Surprise.
James. Yes, commissioners, colleagues. Brett McReynolds, Bureau of Contract Administration. Starting out with package number 22, that I believe was item number 3. May 27, 2016, this contract was awarded on a competitive basis to Mike Perlich and Son using the emergency on-call geotechnical list of contractors. The project was awarded for $1,138.49 for with a contingency for an authorized budget of $1,393,60. The contract repaired sidewalks in council districts 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, primarily around libraries, and the work also included City Hall South, as well as pruning trees, etc. 7 change orders were issued, bringing the total cost of the contract to $1,290,364.30, which is 7.3% below the authorized budget. We added 2 facilities with change orders. Contractor was issued using the emergency on-call list, so therefore no specific MBWB levels were established, and the contractor has complied with all EEO and labor compliance requirements. Work was completed November 21st, 2017, and there are no unresolved property complaints or disputed funds. So we're requesting acceptance.
Thank you, Mr. McReynolds. Commissioner Davis.
This project was an emergency?
Yes, it was using the emergency on-call geotechnical list that was established back in 2014.
I see. So how does this assignment differ with the other sidewalk program that we use for
Well,
small
this was
and emerging businesses?
this package consisted of a mixed bag of repairs. Some of them were urgent. Some of them were actually access requests off the on-call access or off the first-come, first-serve on-call list, which we've been attacking and trying to get down to lower levels. So that's what differentiates this from some of the other packages. Some of the packages I'm also here for are the small contracts, which are we're not necessarily going after urgent sites on those. We're going after sites where contractors can spend some more time learning, et cetera. So that's what differentiates.
In fact, this particular job was one in which it took a higher level of skill and knowledge to do this job as compared to some of the other smaller ones?
Yes, most definitely. The City Hall South package that was included in this contract, number 22, is a good example of that. We had some, very, very difficult elevations and grades to deal with out there, particular ADA issues that were pretty, I would say, pretty intense. And so
in the future, should we look, certainly I'm not seeking to change this particular one, but seeking to better understand our allotment of work in terms of the flexibility to be able to use projects in the future that might also empower some of our small and emerging businesses. Is it possible that in the future, if we have something similar to particularly this kind of job, that small and emerging businesses, not on this one, but in the future, could also potentially be used to use those as well? Is that a possibility?
absolutely. I can speak to that on these other small contract packages I'm asking for, but that's the ultimate goal of the small contractor package, is to try to develop an enhanced work pool of contractors that are actually dedicated for like ADA and some of the more complicated ADA type projects.
Because this job was less than $100,000, right?
Yes.
Is there a threshold on?
No, this package 22 was $1,393,000.
Oh, it's $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw the project was awarded at $48,000 with a not to exceed 90. Oh, I see.
We're actually starting with item
I
3,
got the
right?
wrong one.
Yeah.
Okay, 3.
You're here on
You're,
3, 4,
you're looking 3, 4, and 5.
5.
I think your
Got it.
commissioner might be reading item 4. Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Okay.
It's just,
So-
it's package 22, but
Package
item number
22.
3.
Yeah, item number
Okay.
3.
All right, I got that.
Yeah, this is the larger contract.
Got it. All right. Thanks a million.
You're welcome.
Literally. Anything further on package number 22? That's a motion from Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioners Davis and Garcia. Therefore, without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 3. Any issue sending 3 forthwith? We'll send number 3 forthwith.
And just for the record, that was Commissioner Davis made the motion, seconded by Jacinto and Garcia.
Yes, Jacinto
Thank you.
Garcia, yeah. Agenda item number 4, Mr. McReynolds.
Yes, this is repair, small sidewalk repair contracts, package number 11. On October 21st, 2016, your board adopted the BOE-BCA Joint Report Number 1, which established a small contractor program for the sidewalk repair program. On February 23rd, 2018, this particular contract was entered into with Loyalty Construction Services, doing business as Trident, in the amount of $48,321.14, with a not-to-exceed amount of $99,999. Contract was for the repair of sidewalks adjacent to Robertson Library in West LA area of CD11. 2 change orders were issued, bringing the total cost of the project to 16.21% below the not-to-exceed amount. The total cost of the project was $83,790.17. All work, including final corrections, were completed May 29, 2018, and retention released thereafter. The contractor has complied with EEO and labor compliance requirements. No specific disadvantaged business levels were established on this contract due to its project size. There are no unresolved complaints or disputes, and as I had mentioned earlier, Commissioner Davis, this is an example of one of those very small contractors, Loyalty Construction Services. This was one of their first projects working within a civil engineering public works realm, and so this is an example of a contractor we put a lot of effort into training and bringing up to the ADA, capabilities of doing work within ADA, and with the hope that this contractor can participate then with larger projects going into the future. So I accept, I'm asking for acceptance on this contract.
Mr. McReynolds,
Yes.
before, if I want to ask a question on the item. Comparing 4 to 5, you've got the amount that it's awarded for is in the same ballpark, 44 for one of them, 48 for the other one, $1,000. Although this one comes in 73% higher, both of them are lower than the $99,000 not to exceed limit. They're obviously 2 different projects. Is part of the reason that these projects are coming in a bit over the award amount because of what you just described, first-time contractor with the city, getting them used to ADA requirements, spending some additional time on the contract, those kinds of things?
That's possible, but really these projects have some flexibility built into them because as we're entering some of these neighborhoods, it's natural that we'll find additional work adjacent. As I'd mentioned previously, the previous contract included work. This one here is for Robertson Library, so undoubtedly there was some adjacent work that was identified. I know that there's a child care center not too far from here. So a lot of these contracts have that flexibility so that when we're out there and we start to actually determine what needs to be done in the field, we have the flexibility to add additional square footage as needed.
I think that's helpful. I also think for the closeout report, maybe just a note of that, because if it's in here, I missed it. Because that way the report doesn't look like we're overspending.
Absolutely.
On the awarded amount. There's justification for the further expense that actually makes sense and I think is expedient and efficient.
Certainly, we'll do that.
Thank you. So that's Commissioner Davis's motion on number 4. I'll second. Oh, Commissioner Garcia, sorry about that.
That's
We
okay.
just keep wanting to jump the gun on this
I
one.
know,
don't we?
hang on.
Go ahead, Commissioner
I do
Garcia.
have a question about this. Is part of the increase of the budget or increase of the cost because we are trying this sidewalk repair program, alternative materials pilot program on this?
No, I wouldn't say that's directly because we're aware of those costs in advance. I mean, that was part of the design package when we had the plans put together. Really, these costs are usually fluctuate from either adding actual sites to the locations. In the previous board report, we had added two sites that once we'd gotten out there working with the council offices, we determined that it's timely once we have a contractor out there to go ahead and add the additional square footage at that point.
Got it. Well, can you give me a clarification of what your sidewalk repair program, alternative materials pilot program?
Yeah, so we're using the small contractors to perform work using alternative materials, and those alternative materials are typically water permeable, permeable concrete, where they also have some asphalt tiles and materials that are sustainable materials and things of this nature. So the pilot program, we're going to go back after we've completed a certain amount of sites in about a year and a half's time and evaluate how those projects are working out in the long term as far as maintenance goes. Do we have issues with them settling? Do we have issues with them degrading? And so that's the pilot program part of it. And so the small contracts all have an element of that. So, like I said, they vary slightly depending on what the packages are and what the work locations are.
Okay. Can you give us an update about your findings once you're done
Sure,
with that?
absolutely. We will be. Bureau of Engineering will be preparing a report for that once we have completed about 6 sites.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So no more questions. Now we have Commissioner Davis's motion, my second. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt agenda item number 4. Any issue sending that forthwith? We'll send that one forthwith. Mr. McReynolds, you're here on number 5 as well. Contract package, sidewalk repair plan package number 13. Go ahead.
Okay, this is package number 13. Again, on October 21st, 2016, your board adopted the BOE-BCA Joint Report 1, which established a small contractors on-call list. On March 13th, 2018, this particular contract was entered into with Alameda Construction Services in the amount of $44,666.40. Again, with that not to exceed amount of $99,999. The contract was for repair of sidewalks adjacent to parks in Council Districts 11 and 12. One change order was issued, bringing the total cost to 38.94% below the not-to-exceed amount. The total cost of the contract package was $61,059.11. All work, including final corrections, was completed May 18, 2018, and retention release thereafter. Contractors comply with EEO and labor compliance requirements, and no specific disadvantages business levels were established for this contract due to project size. There are no unresolved complaints and disputes on this contract. This project completed the parks, Park in Marina Del Rey and Chase Park up in the valley.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Davis has made a motion on number 6, seconded by Commissioner Cinto. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Any issue sending number 5 forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. All my numbers are off. Okay, so moving to number 7, Authority for Expenditure, South Coast Air Quality Management. Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $200,000 for fees and licenses for equipment, permit renewals, annual emissions, and various other fees as outlined in the SCA QMD Rule 301 for this fiscal year, which is the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Sherry Simon.
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
I just wanted to let you know Hyperion is, under the Clean Air Act, is required to have a federal operating permit, and then this AFE is to pay all of the fees associated with maintaining that permit.
Any questions at all on number 7? I'll make a motion that we adopt number 7 so we can pay the bills. Seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 7. We can send 7 forthwith. Ms. Simon, it looks like you're here on number 8 as well. Authority for Expenditure, National Association of Clean Water Agencies, NACWA, Bureau of Sanitation, and...
No, I'm actually for number 9, the other one, for
okay.
Kern Water.
Oh, okay. So, well, Mr. Rod, we'll have you. Well, let's go ahead. We'll do Ms. Simon while she's standing there. That's number 9. I'm reversed here on my sheet. Authority for Expenditure, Kern Delta Water District, Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $35,000 for water utility charges to be incurred at Green Acres Farm in Bakersfield, California for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. I would just note the agenda says Barkersfield. I'm going to assume this is Bakersfield, and we haven't given proper notice or improper notice in case there's a town called Barkersfield. This is for Bakersfield.
Yes,
Go
we'll
ahead.
make sure our invoices are right. Yes, this water from the Kern Delta Water District, this is to supply water at Green Acres. Green Acres, this is the third source of water. The primary source of water is the effluent from the city of Bakersfield, and the secondary source is groundwater pumping, or groundwater. And then this third source, this is for contingency, typically only used in the summer.
Are we spending about the same amount of money each year for this, or does it fluctuate?
It fluctuates quite a bit.
It fluctuates quite a bit, okay.
Yes. And we're actually anticipating spending more this year because the city of Bakersfield, they're doing a percolation project for groundwater recharge, and they put us on notice that they will be sending 25% less water to the farm.
Oh, okay. Okay, any further questions on agenda item number 9? Commissioner Garcia has made a motion that we adopt number 9, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 9. Thank you. Any issue sending number 9 forthwith? We will do so. Barkersfield will be pleased. Let's see, Authority for Expenditure, National Association of Clean Water Agencies. Mr. Rod, you're here on number 8. Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $79,560 to pay for our 2019 NACWA membership renewal. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, President James. Good morning, all. My name is Hassan Rod. I am with the Regulatory Affairs Division of Bureau of Sanitation. LA Sanitation is requesting your approval to pay the National Association of Clean Water, also known as NACWA, annual membership due in the amount of $79,560. For the last 25 years, the City of Los Angeles and LA Sanitation have benefited significantly from being a member of the influential organizations such as NACWA by receiving support in technical and regulatory compliance and advanced notification of upcoming legislation and regulation. We thank you for your consideration, and I would be glad to answer any question if you may have any.
What do we do this annually? Does the membership go up a certain percentage each year, or does it flatline, and what happens?
Yes, last year we had an 8% increase, and compared to previous year, we have about $3,000 increase in this year.
Okay.
And the renewal goes from October 1st of this year, 2018, to September 30th of next year, 2019.
Okay.
And if I may, the structure of the fee is based upon the population of the service area. Because we are about 4 million, that goes about 79,560. It goes anywhere from 10,000 to 5 million, so we are ranked pretty high up there.
I know that in prior years we've had leadership with NACWA. Adele Hajkhalil, who is now the director at the Bureau of Street Services, was, I think, the president of NACWA?
Absolutely. He was the president, I believe, if my memory serves me right, about two years ago.
Right. Are we still in leadership there at
we
sanitation?
have a number of staff and our executive team that continuously, collaborate with them on a number of issues. Our staff participate in many webinar, seminar, training. They are very active at the national level with, with the U.S. Congress, with the presidential, administrations, working, to produce the best legislation, that protects the environment and help its member. So, yeah, we are absolutely involved in working with them on a regular basis. So is our staff.
Thank you. Any further questions on number 8? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 8. Seconded by Commissioner Davis. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any issue or any objection on number 8? We'll adopt agenda item number 8. Any issue sending number 8 forthwith? We will send number 8 forthwith. Agenda item number 6, a project labor agreement, North Outfalls Sewer Rehabilitation Unit 9, recommending that the board add the Department of Public Works project labor agreement to this project. Ms. Arcadia Murillo.
Yes, hi, good morning. So today I'm here to talk about the North Alpha Sewer Rehab Unit 9, and I was looking back, and actually I was here to talk about Unit 8 when I first started with BCA. So we're recommending that you approve adding this Department of Public Works PLA to this project. It's the, like I said, North Alpha Sewer Rehab Unit 9, Aliso to 6th Street. And the Bureau of Engineering is also in agreement with this. And the project is located inside of Council District 14 in the zip code of 90033 in the community of Boyle Heights. And I'll read exactly what the project is. So it's going to rehabilitate by slip lining 4,066 linear feet of 45-inch, 48-inch, and 54 clay tile line burn McDonald semi-elliptical concrete sewer from 4th Street to Aliso Street and Mission Road. It will also include cleaning the hose pipe in preparation for the lining operation, order control during construction, constructing a new maintenance hole, removing and replacing 3 existing maintenance holes, reestablishing, reactivating 9 laterals, connectivity nodes, and removing and disposing abandoned railroad tracks on Mission Road. And the city engineer is estimating $9.3 million to the cost of this project. And a couple of the benefits for adding a PLA to a project is that the project is done on time and within budget, and ensures work is done by skilled labor with a commitment to training, and it facilitates grievances and disputes without work stoppages. And historically, projects under Department of Public Works PLA have created an average of 13 jobs per $1 million, and based on this current math, we estimate 121 jobs being created with this project. And it's not only jobs, but it's career opportunities for hiring local residents, local apprentices, and transitional workers. So therefore, we are going to monitor this project, and we're recommending approval for adding this PLA to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James, and thank you for the report. Appreciate this is Unit 9. Anytime we get a chance to add another project to the PLA, the project labor agreement is a win-win for the city and for workers. And thank you for mentioning the specific zip code that the project is located in. Do we get benefit locally with that zip code 90032 and around that? You mentioned Boyle Heights. Want to see if we have that overlay or that correlation.
You're talking about wages specifically, or?
Yeah, jobs, apprentices, local hires. Do we actually were able to target for that specific or around there?
So actually, based on our numbers for today, in that area right now, based on our current fiscal year, we've invested over $87,000 in that particular zip code. Overall, it's over $664,000. These are wages that are going back to the community in Boyle Heights. I live not that far from Boyle Heights, so I know a lot of the work that's going into not just helping the neighborhood, but the actual residents there with jobs and career opportunities.
You bet. That's exactly what we're trying to do in the project labor agreement. So we look forward to Ian's quarterly report, I think it is, and just the cumulative and all the win-wins that we have for the city and local residents.
Well, we have our PLA report that's on our BCA website, and so we have our figures that are updated daily. So we have that information available to us by zip code, by overall in the city.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. Was that a motion? All right, seconded by Commissioner Garcia and Commissioner Davis. Therefore, without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 6. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Any issue sending number 6 forthwith? We will send number 6 forthwith. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Monday, October 22nd, 2018 by Commissioner Davis? Any objection? Without objection, we will approve those meeting minutes. Agenda item number 2, contract award, Council Districts 6 and 10. Vision Zero Phase 2C is in Charlie, recommending that the board declare Crosstown Electrical and Data the first low bidder to be the lowest responsive responsible bidder, and award Crosstown a contract for the project for $2,328,987, and award Crosstown, I already did that part, and authorize myself or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. Good morning, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Adam Driscoll with the Department of Transportation, and I am here today to recommend that the board declare Crosstown Electric the lowest responsive responsible bidder for the Vision Zero Phase 2C project in the amount of $2,328,987. A little background on this project: this is just a small piece of the city's larger complete streets reconstruction corridor projects, which is a big project that many city agencies are involved in, but it's primarily jointly led by DOT and BOE. And this year's work program, we've identified 6 corridors to get full infrastructure improvements, including resurfacing, installation of ADA compliant ramps, new striping, signal improvements. Those 6 corridors are Roscoe, Venice, Temple, Main, Reseda, and Avalon. This
Could you repeat those again? Roscoe Boulevard?
Yes.
Okay.
Venice Boulevard, Temple, Main, Reseda, Avalon.
You're saying them too fast for me.
I'm sorry.
So let's go again. Roscoe Boulevard, Venice, Temple,
Yes.
okay,
Main,
okay.
Reseda, and Avalon.
Main downtown,
No. Main in the south.
what? South Main,
Maine and South LA?
Yes.
okay.
And
'Cause
what
you-
about Avalon? Is that in South LA as well?
Yes.
Okay, and so just so I'm clear, Roscoe Boulevard would be in CD6,
Yes.
okay? Venice is in CD10,
Yes.
okay? Temple,
Well, this project is only, I was going to get to that next. This
Okay.
project only consists of DOT's portion of the work for the Roscoe and the Venice, 2 of the 6 corridors. So
Got
there's the overall reconstruction corridor projects, which is
Okay.
these 6 corridors.
then I'll leave the others aside.
I was just
Go ahead, Mr.
adding
Bisco.
that
You're
for-
probably just about to get there.
I was.
All right.
That's okay.
But when you throw out Temple and Maine, you're going to get my attention. So, but
You'll
now
be hearing
go,
about those soon
Go right
enough
ahead.
at
Okay.
the same place.
Yeah. All right.
So this project is only the DOT scope of work on the Roscoe and Venice parts of of that 4 project. BSS and BOE are already out there with their crews doing some resurfacing, installing some ADA compliant ramps. DOT crews were already committed to too much work for this year that we couldn't fit this in, so that's why we're contracting it out. So specifically, this project consists of traffic signal safety improvements at 9 intersections on Roscoe and at 4 intersections on Venice. And included on that work is the installation of ADA compliant access ramps at all 13 of those intersections. So ultimately, this project just consists of signal safety improvements at 13 intersections, including installation of ADA compliant ramps for the Roscoe and Venice complete streets reconstruction corridor projects.
Okay. Commissioner Davis?
No, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you. I just, Adam, we wanted to make a clarification. On page 2, there's a photo, a simulation of another city, and I remember we talked about it in the briefing. That's representative of the scope of work totally in terms of the reconstruction, but not particularly
It's
exact.
not specific to these 2 projects. These 2 there's no major bike lane or bus boarding platforms. That's more for the Reseda and Avalon. You'll see more exciting stuff like is reflected in that picture, but these are much more straightforward projects. And that was just a generic complete streets picture I used because I couldn't find a picture of the current projects to include.
And that's fine. I just wanted to, we're doing 13 signal enhancements.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis?
Wanted to know if you could just give a brief overview of the business inclusion opportunities that have been planned for this particular project.
Sure. As you may or may not know, the DOT engineers who bid these projects out, we're not involved in the decision-making process of who wins the bids, but I did talk quite a bit with the project award and control folks about the DBE percentages and who are using to build these projects. And the way they described it to me was that these percentages are just sort of anticipated and meant as a way of tracking what we use, but it's not a factor in determining who the lowest responsible bidder is, at least on their end.
Sure.
So they're not going to, so I guess at the end of the day, the contractor's incentive is more to deliver the low bid and rather than get the low percentages. It's also just the nature of traffic signal construction that there's a lot of niche specific work that there's only a small number of contractors who can even do that work, such as like cutting traffic signal loops or painting the street. There's only a few contractors who are really well known and well regarded for doing that stuff. So that's what can sometimes limit those percentages.
Well, and then certainly we understand that there are certain areas of work where there are few, if any, minority-owned businesses. However, at the same time, the vision that we have matters, so that, in fact, we cannot say that when we give our minimum requirement in most cases that it will end up being that, but the fact that we had a vision of inclusion matters. So whenever possible, that is why we ask the question about what could we capture from this work that will include diverse populations of business folk in this business. So we're going to always ask that question. And we always hope that you have a vision for that, understanding that in some subspecialty areas of work, we don't have minorities, but when we do, we hope that you would, even in transportation, come to us in a way in which you'll have a vision for that. let me just finally ask you, you specifically have nothing to do with what we do on our minimum projected requirement. Who is the department or the bureau that does that? Is it engineering or who is it?
When I, when I prepared the package to bid, I fill out this document called the Ready to Advertise checklist. And in there, I check off a box that says what these minimums should be for this project.
Sure.
But once the bids are received, it goes directly, my understanding, to the project award and control folks who circulate the bids and do their own analysis and determine who the lowest responsible bidder is.
So basically, in your role, you're saying that as it looks at the jobs that are due in this project, you don't anticipate any minorities being available based upon what we see here? Any minority businesses, is that correct?
There's some, I mean, who Crosstown have included.
But we don't have a vision for any according to the proposal that I have before me, is that correct? Am I on the right?
I think so.
Am I on the right page? On the right page?
What do you mean by a vision for any?
Yeah, is that correct? So we don't have a vision. I'm asking you based upon your discussion with us. You're saying that you filled out what you thought our minimum requirement could possibly be.
Correct.
And I'm saying to you, then do we not, in terms of looking at this project and the work and the tasks that are done here, see any opportunity for minority businesses to be included in any way in terms of what's presented for work here?
Let me ask this question. Does the Bureau of Contract Administration, Mr. Driscoll, work with DOT on that? Do you know? Or does
We don't work very-
BCA rep here today know? Mr. Jordan?
No, perhaps I'm misunderstanding the direction it's going. I'm looking at the report that's before the board, and the report indicates that the project was advertised with an anticipated participation level of 4%, 2%.
We always do that.
And that is typical. The numbers may vary depending on the nature of the project.
Sure.
Then it's
Mr.
up to
Driscoll
the
referenced the reasons for that.
Exactly. Then it's up to the bidders to do the good faith effort. We demand that they do that. They're non-responsive if they don't. And in this case, the firm is being indicated that they did the good faith effort. They are proposed to be found to be responsive, and the result of their good faith effort is what you see as the pledged numbers, which in this case they failed to reach the number for MBE, which the anticipated level is 4% and the pledged amount is 0.
All right.
They've got 9% on SBE, though. It is what it is, and 1.66% on WBE. So go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
So basically, that was it.
Thank you.
For future work, and I think that you already know that, so I'll always ask the question.
Understood.
All right,
Understood.
thank
Thank you.
And well, that's it. I'm not going to add anything else, Commissioner Davis. I think you've handled that one. Commissioner Jacinto has made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2, and I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming today. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Agenda item number 1. Policy number 793, contract authority increase of change orders, addenda, construction orders, and task orders. Recommend that the board first authorize the city engineer to issue additive and deductive change orders up to $150,000 or up to the contingency limit set for the project not to exceed 25% of the project cost, whichever is less. Secondly, authorize the city engineer to issue addenda for changes in plans, specifications, or bid proposals during the bid period without prior Board of Public Works approval, up to $150,000 or up to contingency limits set for the project not to exceed 25% of the project cost, whichever is less. 3, adopt the amount set forth in recommendation number 1 as a specific limit on the power the board is authorized to delegate in accordance with section 376 of the new city charter, transmittal number 1, for all change orders and addenda issued by the Bureau of Engineering under the board. 4th, authorize the city engineer to issue construction orders up to $150,000 for all emergency pre-qualified on-call geotechnical structural contractors lists super expedited wastewater emergency rehabilitation for sewers, that's the sewers contract, and the Cisco contract, that's the construction services contract. Again, Cisco's not the company, it's an acronym. This was continued over a couple of times for additional work to be done, which we have a supplemental to proposed policy 793 that adds to what I just said, directors of street lighting and street services as well. Correct, Mr. Red?
That is correct. That is my recommendation, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. So what I will do is I'll let Ken set the stage in terms of the original proposal that was before this board about a month ago, or almost 2 months ago now. And then from there, I can give my supplemental recommendations to this board in regards to the analysis and review that I've done on my end.
And that's regarding putting basically all bureaus at the same level, threshold level that we discussed during one of the original hearings on this?
I will make 4 recommendations or amendments to the proposed policy, and one is to add the directors of street lighting and street services to be authorized to issue change orders along with the city engineer. In addition to that, I'll make other recommendations.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Red.
Good morning. Ken Red, Bureau of Engineering. Yeah, we were here originally back in August requesting that we increase the city engineer's authority from $100,000 up to $150,000 for the various things that we've talked about, for change orders, for addenda, for construction orders on the various contracts that you mentioned, and also on the personal services contract to issue task orders up to $150,000. Just to remind you that and set the stage for that, the city engineer's limit has been $100,000 for about 17 years. During those 17 years, we had a 41.2% increase in the consumer price index over that same period, so asking for an additional $50,000 of
That takes
authority.
you to the 150, basically.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And that's really what we were here to try to do back in August, and I think it was continued because they wanted to have Dr. Campos look at the overall department and make it a little more broader than just the Bureau of Engineering, I think was the gist of why we held it over.
Yeah, absolutely. Fernando Campos, again, Executive Officer. That was definitely the recommendation and request from this board in terms of what other authorities are out there in terms of other bureau heads, and then also does the board want to delegate its authority down to the bureau heads for these matters. So the matters before you are the city engineer's recommendation to increase that dollar amount for the change orders from the $100,000 to $150,000. Based on my analysis of dating back to 1967, this board has actually been delegating the authority for change orders starting at around $2,000 with the Bureau of Street Lighting, our Director of Street Lighting, and then increasing that authority up to about $100,000. The most recent change to the change order to the city engineer was back in 2001, increasing that limit to $100,000. So since 2001 to the present, the city engineer is now requesting to change that number, increase that number to 150 based on inflation. Based on the cost of living, also the increase in the cost to procure goods and services and materials for construction contracts, it definitely sounds reasonable to increase that limit from 100 to 150,000. I believe also that will capture most of the change orders that are coming before this board and will reduce the time in terms of processing those change orders. In my analysis, also in reviewing all the authorities that have been delegated down to the bureau heads, I did discover there was the Bureau of Street Lighting that had the same authorities, but that authority was capped at $25,000 back in 1991. So I believe that if we're adjusting it for the city engineer, it would be appropriate for this board to consider adjusting that limit to the Director of Street Lighting to $150,000 as well. In addition to that, the Bureau of Street Services does release some construction contracts for landscaping and median design, so therefore it would be inclusive to include or to capture the Director of Street Lighting and be allowed to issue the same change order authorities for the construction contracts. So again, recommendation number 1 for the city engineer's proposed budget would be amended to include the directors of street lighting and street services to issue the additive and deductive change orders. In addition to that, the addendas that go out for changes on bids, plans, or specifications, this board, or the then board, established the policies back in 1979 in terms of submitting those bid plans, those specifications, and those were adopted as a policy back in 1979. The bureaus have been adhering to that policy in terms of submitting those bids and then also coming to this board for approval of those bids. Section 581 of the city charter does authorize this board to oversee and approve any scope of work or nature of work that's related to a bid, specifications coming before the board, but also primarily setting the rules and the procedures on how we go about releasing and advertising those bid projects or releasing the bids for the construction projects. So in adherence to the 1979 policy and also Section 581, this board has delegated that authority down to the Bureau of Engineering back in 2001, March 2001. So therefore, this recommendation from the city engineer on recommendation number 2 is consistent to what has been done since 2001. Also, it's consistent with the Charter Section 581. However, my recommendation is also to include the directors of street lighting and street services to that recommendation to number 2 so that they can also issue those addenda as necessary, because they do issue out, they do release bids, they do release plans and also specifications similar to that of the city engineer. The last recommendation that I'm making a suggestion to or amendment to is recommendation number 4 and 5. The city engineer has recommended to increase the construction work orders up to $150,000. Currently, those limits are $100,000. In some cases where it's an emergency, it's $500,000. So my recommendation is to maintain the $150,000 as recommended for the proposed contracts that are before you on recommendation number 4. The emergency contracts, that stands still in terms of those policies for those isolated cases up to $500,000. However, in my analysis, I also identified the emergency sewer and storm drain and also demolition services contracts. Not sure if those are still active in terms of the demolition service contract, but for sure the emergency sewer and storm drain contracts are still going, and we utilize those, what we call the ESR program. We still utilize those, so my friendly recommendation to...
Were those at $100,000 as well before?
That is correct, yes.
Well, the emergency sewer one is the one that goes up to the 500,000.
$500,000 for emergencies.
Everything else is 100,000. It was the emergency sewer contract that, and I'm not sure when it went, but it was probably more than 17 years ago that they moved it up to the 500,000 because we were calling our liaison commissioner on a weekly basis.
We don't do that anymore, do you?
We still.
Joel says you do.
We still do.
We're not tinkering with that then, are we?
Not tinkering with that.
No.
Got it.
And then the demolition contract is, yes, we do have that on call.
Okay.
You still have that active. So this would increase the limit to the demolition as well to up to 150 as well. So it'll just more comprehensively capture all the contracts that the Bureau of Engineering currently has under their jurisdiction or control. In addition to that, the last recommendation on item number 5, which is authorizing the city engineer to issue task orders up to $150,000 on personal services contract. This was a quite interesting one for me because I was trying to be inclusive of all bureau heads and consider their needs as they approve and release task orders. So many of the board or many of the bureaus may have what they call pre-qualified on-call pre-qualified on-call personal services contracts. Currently, the Bureau of Engineering has the authority to issue task orders up to $100,000. So this would again increase that limit to $150,000. However, we do have other bureau heads that do have pre-qualified on-call contracts that have been authorized to approve task orders up to $150,000. For example, back in February 2014, this board approved the Bureau of Sanitation, the Director of Sanitation, to issue task orders for up to $150,000 for the on-call services for the wastewater, stormwater, and also solid resources contracts.
I remember.
That recommendation went to the mayor and also to the CAO's office, the City Administrative Officer office, and both offices, including the mayor, agreed and concurred to establish that limit at $150,000. So
Wasn't the request originally $250,000 though?
Originally, I believe it was 300 or
Okay.
250 or 300
It was 250 and it bounced back to 150.
to 150.
Right, got it.
So therefore, this recommendation, or the amendment to recommendation number 5 would be to set the city engineer's authority limit equal to that of the director of sanitation. However, there are possibilities that the other bureau heads may establish a pre-qualified on-call personal contracts, personal services contracts. So therefore, my recommendation is to amend to include all bureau heads and the executive officer as well in the event that we have an approved pre-qualified on-call list. Let me be clear when I say approve, that means that the establishment of those pre-qualified on-call personal services contract must come through the board first. Once the board and or the mayor and city council approve those contracts, then from there, and once they're established and approved, from there the bureau heads would be able to issue task order solicitations from those approved contracts. So again, they must be approved before they're authorized to issue a task order solicitation.
So my question and potential concern, really more or less just opinion, on this is the addition, with all due respect, Mr. Campos, of executive officer. Because the executive officer, today it's you, and we expect that to be for the obviously foreseeable future, but these policies have been intact for generations. Because the executive director, the executive officer is of the board, whereas the bureaus are separate, they're separate offices, separate legal entities, they come to the board. I think that I would strike executive officer here because any personal services contracts that the board has through you, I think need to come to the board anyway. And no matter what level they are, even if it's $50,000, I'm not sure even what the threshold is now.
And we're talking about the establishment or the authority to issue task orders on an approved contract, not necessarily to execute and approve a contract. All contracts must come to the board at this time.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry, unless they're under $25,000.
So what's the current practice regarding your office? I'm singling out your office because I'm okay with the 5 bureaus operating on the same threshold. I feel differently about our board and our executive office because it is directly part of the board, and we're here 3 days a week. So
yeah, the current practice for the executive officer is to submit all contracts to this board, anything above $25,000 or contracts that exceed 90 days in their duration.
Okay, that's what I would like to leave in place. Does this change that? Does your recommendation number 3 on the supplemental to proposed policy change that? The $25,000 threshold?
It does not, no.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay.
The $25,000 applies to all bureau heads at this time and the executive officer.
Okay, Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, if it doesn't change it, then let's just say Public Works directors issue task orders up to $150,000. If the language doesn't change anything, why use it?
I would even do this. I would revise the term Public Works directors because that term is actually defined in the charter.
Okay.
And we don't have a sitting Public Works director under budget right now. So I would change number 3 to say, and I would say directors of street lighting, street services, the city engineer, BCA I guess is not part of this, sanitation, that's the 4 of them. I would spell them out one by one, would be my friendly amendment that I would offer here.
If we do remove so we would remove the inspector from this list. So
Well, I
it'd
have
just
no
be the
problem
city
leaving.
engineer.
I have no problem leaving him there.
My understanding is the Bureau of Contract Administration does have some pre-qualified contracts in its capacity as the...
Then he should have the same authority the others.
agree.
Yeah.
For the
So,
Office of Wage Compliance, they
okay.
have some
So I would add, all 5 of them, but I would, again, you can, Gary Lee Moore list as the city engineer, John Reamer is the public works inspector.
And then the 3 directors.
And you can work with the other 3 on how they want to be listed here, but we ought to list them in a way that it's legally discernible who we're talking about.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. The last friendly amendment to the proposed policy is just to make sure that the bureaus report back on a quarterly basis to this board, just like they have been in the past for all the other change orders. So this would make it all-inclusive. Right now, we do have quarterly updates on Sewers 5, Sewer 6, also the Cisco, and then also the emergency sewer repair. So it would just be more comprehensive to have all bureau heads report back on a quarterly basis on all change orders, all construction work orders, all task orders, and then any addendas that are released. So it would be a comprehensive update to this board so that you can look at how many, the quantity, the amount, the types of projects that the bureau heads are approving on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I want your threshold for the executive office, Dr. Campos, left the same because you're an extension of us. I would
agree.
I
would agree that when they...
I'd go down to $1 on that just because we're the five of us and we're here. But I reckon that I'm not going to tinker with what was there, and I realize that you have expenses and appropriations that you need to make, so we don't want to make...
$1 and even $25,000 slows me down, but I'd be more than happy to come back to the board every time.
We're going to leave. I want to leave it. My point is, I want to leave what is there. I don't want to... Because we don't require you to over-report to this board for your appropriations, I don't think. And I don't want to require that either, but I also don't want to require you, I don't want to end up with a situation where you're under-reporting to the board since you're part of the board. Because I don't think that looks good just on the smell test of government transparency and accountability. So that would be my recommendation. Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah, I remember when we started this case a couple of months ago, and I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Fernando, Dr. Campos, we were not going to include the personal service contracts to be up to 150. It was only just going to be construction contracts. Did that change at some point?
That was the item of contention, if you will, or the item that some members wanted additional information before they made a decision. So at the time, it's always been construction contracts. The personal services contracts is the first time we're actually bringing this to the table. However, based on the analysis and based on the review, this board had already done that back in 2014, I believe, for the personal services contract for sanitation. So this board had already made that movement, if you will, or precedence. So therefore, the city engineer was coming back and asking for the same or similar authority.
Okay, good. I know they're all telling me the background. I wasn't here in 2014, so I didn't know that. Perfect. Then it's all fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Davis. We had this it wasn't as comprehensive, but we had a discussion in 2014.
And having said that, this board could opt not to move forward with the personal services contract and only allow the current authority for the Bureau of Sanitation to proceed. And once that pre-established or pre-qualified on-call list expires, then at that point, none of the Bureau heads would have the authority. So at that point, any personal services contract would have to come to this board. So that's the second option that this board can do, and that is to strike out or to eliminate recommendation number 5 from the city engineer's report.
But currently, sanitation does have this authority, right?
They do, and I believe it's a 5-year contract, if I'm not mistaken, so that means it'll expire in February of 2019, and there may be 1 or 2 annual extensions to that contract, so you're probably looking at 2021.
But it would be extended by this, in essence, wouldn't it?
It would.
Right.
Yeah, this would be extending theirs as well.
The practice of the delegation of authority, yes, but the actual contracts themselves would expire at the then contract expiration date.
Okay, so this gives us a uniformity around the 5 bureaus, in other words.
It aligns them all together. It captures everyone within the Department of Public Works, not just the city engineer or the director of street lighting or the director of street services. It just makes it more comprehensive so that all directors have the same authority.
And we're separating ourselves out, though. We're not extending our own authority because I don't think we should since we're here. Not that they aren't, but I just am uncomfortable adding it for our own office. I think that purpose of why we're here is to put these things on this very public table. So, Commissioner Arcento.
Thank you, President James. So Ken, back to your 5 recommendations to our board. I support them all, and basically, as we went back and forth on the efficiency, based on trust and based on the powers vested in the Bureau leadership, I feel that they've been handled appropriately, been able to be used responsibility. So I want to be able to focus on at least the request and being able to, for some certain items under a certain amount, being able, not having to go to the board and being more efficient in the use. So I'm fine with that. I know that we have a lot, and just a note of process, the supplement has a lot of stuff that we have, so I just wanted to comment on that. But I'm fine with it because that's what we had asked the executive officer, and thank you, Dr. Combs, for doing all this work, for bringing us a lot in this motion.
And look at it, Transmittal 1.
Right.
The delegation of authority historical perspective.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that.
That took some work.
You bet.
And I can definitely provide copies of all those policies if you'd like, or share them with you offline. But
So I will say that, and Mr. Jordan, thank you for catching it, because our Bureau of Contract Administration has also the living wage and on-call that is appropriate, that we add them as well in conformance with all the other Bureau heads. And I also agree, President James, thank you for your leadership on that, putting us accountable for what we do on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, and we should be able to handle all that stuff. So I'm fine with that too as well, including BCA, Bureau of Contract Administration as well on the 4, including the Bureau of Engineering, so that we all can be pretty consistent.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with the discussion that we have had. Obviously, the Bureau directors have felt that the increase to 150 will help operationally us to be more effective in terms of them doing day-to-day business. And I think secondly, in terms of policy, to afford the opportunity to the other bureaus equally, I think makes good policy sense. If it's true that to extend this to 150 helps them be more effective, I think then everyone ought to be afforded that opportunity among our other bureaus as well. So collectively, I agree with us moving forward in the discussion that we've had, colleagues, on this particular policy. And then finally, I think that as we discussed on provision 3, about the Public Works Director that you discussed, President, I agree with that too. Just by doing routine business with us, automatically the bureaus deal with our executive officer on our own behalf. So I think that we've had a very comprehensive conversation, and I think that this policy hopefully will do what our bureau directors hope that it will do. And finally, I'll say that I hope that as we move forward in doing these things, particularly as it relates to construction work, and I guess we would say personal services as well, I appreciate seeing some hint of progress as we look at the diversity that we're seeking to accomplish. As we grant more authority for you to be more effective, we hope that our collective concern about inclusion in this city is hopefully increased as well on your behalf, as we have certainly heard you in terms of what we can do in the board to make you more effective, that you will do the same for us as we seek to increase more diversity. So thank you.
What I would propose, may sound a little unusual. Dr. Campos, because I don't have a transmittal of the board policy 793. What does, can you just...
Yeah, my apologies, I can get copies, but the policy 793 is the one that's being submitted by the city engineer to increase the authority. So would you like me to read the recommendations and then?
Can I just look at it? I've got the recommendations. Yes. I just want to see the actual board policy 793.
I would definitely provide it to you. And then before I do that, let me just recap if I'm understanding correctly from this board. Recommendation number 1 would be to include the Director of Street Lighting and Street Services, and also include a condition to report back on a quarterly basis. Recommendation number 2 would be to add or include the Director of Street Lighting and Street Services, and also include a recommendation to report back on a quarterly basis. Recommendation 3 would stand as is. Recommendation number 4 would be to include the emergency sewer repair, emergency storm drain contract list and demolition services. In addition to that, recommendation number 5 would be to add the city inspector plus the directors of street services, street lighting, and also sanitation to recommendation number 5. I will hand over the report so that you can take a look at it, Mr. President. And then as I do that, I will ask Ken if he can just clarify.
And the inspector to number 5.
City inspector, yes.
Did you say that?
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I will ask Ken if the sidewalk repair program, would you ever issue any construction work orders on the sidewalk repair program pre-established list? This would be on recommendation number 4.
Yeah,
so
do.
we may want to include that
Yes.
list as well. So
I think we should.
Yes, we should.
It's a good point, Dr. Campos.
Yeah, thank you. I know the intent was to have 150,000 across the board for everything that we do. That was the intent.
So here's what because of just
so that we don't have to remember the one that's not.
So just because of the complexity of while he got it exactly right, along the way he thought of another one that was exactly right. My gut on this, I don't mind today voting to support it, so we've done it. But I would like to find a way, Mr. Jordan, to carve out the implementation of it until we've actually seen it in front of us, because we're still looking at amendments, and I want to see it in its full form. Does that make sense? That's why I wanted to see 793, so that because we're amending it, and we've got. I think we're all on the same page. The easier thing, maybe it's easier just to continue it again, but I would like to take a vote on it so that we know what. So how do you? You're creative, Dr. Campos. What do you think? Can we vote on it and then have a report back on?
If this board is looking for what would the final policy recommendations look like with all the additives and all the amendments that were proposed or discussed in today's discussion, we can quickly turn that around within a day or two and then put this back onto the agenda and holding it over till maybe.
How much time do you need? Well, it's a holiday coming up.
I should be able to issue a supplemental for this Wednesday. That's right, Friday we're off, so Wednesday the 21st. Let's go with Wednesday the 21st.
Okay, so that's 2 days from now. What we could do is vote on it and not send it forthwith.
I would recommend just continuing it to Wednesday the 21st. We can write up the new recommendations as amended or as discussed today. At that point, this board would then be able to take action on the amended policy recommendations.
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday the 21st.
And that'll give the bureaus a chance to really, because the other bureaus haven't necessarily been an active part of this, including sanitation, which isn't really directly affected by this, but they may take a look at that list and say, hey, I think we need change order authority too. So I think my recommendation would be to continue it to Wednesday. That's only 2 days.
Okay.
Finalize this, and then that gives the remaining bureaus an opportunity to sort of take a look at what we're doing and weigh in if they have any thoughts on the matter.
Okay, well,
also, if there's any,
certainly had the opportunity to be here today, but we'll do that for November 21, which is 2 days from today.
and I'll work with the Bureau of Engineering just in case there's other lists that should be included in recommendation number 4 that are not reflected here or as discussed today.
Great. Yeah, and you can just revise pursuant to this discussion. Okay. Thank you. So that'll be the order on number 1. And Dr. Campos, my intent was to try and make it a little easier for your Secretariat office on getting the agenda squared right. But even if you have to add it as a supplemental or whatever you need to do.
We can definitely do the supplemental. We can make that happen. The
Or a
easiest.
special, however you want to do it.
The easiest would be waiting until the following Friday when I return back from vacation, but I don't want to hold this up. So Wednesday the 21st, we'll
Okay.
make it happen.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for all the work on that in general. So that'll be the order on number 1. Have we cleared, so Mr. Red, can you come in on Wednesday? I'm sorry to make you come back.
I will love to come back on Wednesday.
Okay. All right, well, we'll have you come back on Wednesday. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. Have we cleared the desk otherwise?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned this Monday morning. Thank you, everyone.
Nice meeting you.